Good morning, folks. Ken Ring of www.predictweather.com. It's the 22nd of March, the day of the northern declination, the day that the moon reaches its lowest point in the southern sky or the highest point in the northern hemisphere sky. And after today, the moon in the southern sky will start to climb a little bit higher each day, and in the northern sky it will start to go down a little bit more each day until it reaches the southernmost point, and the southernmost point will be on the 4th of April. Northern declination has various effects in the weather. There's usually a bit of rain after the northern declination, and especially if there's a perigee around, which there is on the 28th. See, what happens is when the moon comes down from the north in this part of the world, well, it's bringing warmer air from the direction of the equator, and that warmer air causes evaporation, and that brings the rain. So you'll see clouds forming in the sky in a few days' time, if not tomorrow, and they will, when the clouds come from the north, they're generally rain-filled and rain will happen. There was a bit of destruction on the Queensland coast from the remains of the cyclone. It wasn't really a cyclone by the time it crossed. It crossed at night, and that's an interesting thing in itself. Now, when the moon goes out of the sky, which it does at some time every day, if there's rain around or colder temperatures, wind systems, they generally have their effect after the moon has set. So when the moon goes below the horizon, that's when the extreme weather often starts, and that's because the moon holds a volume of air underneath it, which protects us from a lot of the nasty things that would be happening in the atmosphere. You know, the extreme heat of the sun or the cold of space that wants to come down here. So the rule is that when the moon is in the sky, we're pretty well protected. So that's a northern declination. Sometimes you get whale strandings around the northern declination because there seems to be more earthquakes around the northern declination as well, and the dolphins and whales chasing fish along the valleys of the ravines and well, they are ravines, aren't they, out at sea, channels. When an earthquake happens under the seafloor, it produces a shock wave which knocks the whales and dolphins out, and they float into the shore and they cause a stranding incident. Well, you do get more earthquakes around the northern declination, and of course you get more earthquakes happening out at sea underneath the seafloor as well. It's not a tsunami necessarily. You know, people these days think that every earthquake's going to be a tsunami. It's only going to be a tsunami if it's fairly shallow below the surface of the land. Most earthquakes are really fairly well down. Of course, they do bring a lot of damage in some places of the world, because some places are on what we call the Ring of Fire, which is the earthquake-prone area. And New Zealand, part of New Zealand is on that as well. So we do get a fair degree of earthquakes. I think you'll be reading about a couple of shakes over the next couple of days. So there are things to watch for. Northern declination is always an interesting time, but the perigee is more interesting, and that's coming around the 28th. I think there'll be a new cyclone forming itself in the northeast of Australia and bringing some extreme weather up there, and that will be around the 25th, 26th, and in the last days of this month, March. So there'll be another cyclone happening in about a week's time, something to watch out for in the news. Thanks for watching. Ken Ring, predictweather.com. I'll see you tomorrow.